Morning class. Good morning, Bhabin. हजुर मात्रै होइसिन्छ नि त बबिन. बोलाउन साथीहरुलाई.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. So kina only 3 year. So let's start our lesson, okay? We were reading.
Okay, ma'am.
We were reading argumentation essay, no? And we were reading argumentation essay, and it is our new essay today, the meat market, and I think we are in half. Paragraph wise description, we are in half, is it? Or I haven't started?
सुरु त भइसकेको थियो. त्यसमा हो कि कहाँ?
म जस्तो लाग्छ 300 फेरि 304 बाट सुरु गर्ने हो कि आज हामी है यो मैले बिचमा सुन्नु लगाएर छ. So let's start from 304, page number 304. I will try once for camera, okay? Let's see. आज नि प्रेजेन्टेसनै गर्ने त हो नि, पालो आउँछ भनेर आइस्या हो नआइस्या हो कि त्यही त होला नि हैन. Okay, so here we are reading that how the human organs are sold, treated, and used in market. Yes, how the different countries are able to use the human organs, to maintain the human organs and to use the human organs, and the victims, sick peoples, how much they are able to live when their inner organ gets failed by transplanting the different organs of other human beings. So routine removal has been used for horns, but is unlikely to ever become standard for kidneys, livers, or lungs. Nevertheless, more countries are moving toward presumed consent. Under the standard, everyone is considered to be a potential organ donor unless they have affirmatively opted out, say by signing a non-organ donor card. Non-organ donor card. They have these cards, yes, and when they will sign over here, then their organs will be eligible. है आइएलएल भनेको चाहिँ एलिजिबल भनेको गैर कानुनी इएलएल भनेको चाहिँ कानुनी है तपाईँलाई यो वर्ड यु विल गेट इन ग्रामर टु आइएलएल आयो भने चाहिँ त्यो इल भनेर सम्झाउनुहोस् नेगेटिभ हो भनेर सम्झाउनुहोस् त्यो चाहिँ कानुन विपरीत भयो इ भनेर आयो भने चाहिँ द्याट्स एक्सेप्टेबल सो presumed consent is common in Europe and appears to raise donation rates modestly, especially when combined, as it is in Spain, with readily available transplant coordinators, trained organ procurement specialists, round the clock laboratory facilities, and other investment in transplant infrastructures. So, only transplanting the human organ is not a solution. No, and it is not as easy as we have thought to transplant the human organ. There are many processes, different ways. Yes, and before the transplanting organs too, many processes should be fulfilled over there. Many things should be kept in mind, and the organ which is going to be transplanted, beside that, other organs of the human beings should be normalized. त्यो पनि ध्यान दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ. British Medical Association has called for a presumed consent system in the UK, and Wales plans to move to such a system this year. India is also beginning a presumed consent program that will start this year. Means when it is written, यो हामीले लेखेको वर्षको कुरा हो यो है. India is also beginning a presumed consent program that will start this year with kidneys and later expand to other organs. Presumed consent has a less support in the US, but experiments at the state level would make for a useful test. So, the experiment at the state level, हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लेभलमा भएको state level experiment that would make for a useful test. Ravi's selling organ in New Jersey. Organ sales from poor Indian people, Thailand's people, and Filipino donors. Transplant tourism, it's all part of growing black market in transplant. यसले चाहिँ कालो बजारी गर्ने काम गर्यो. सस्तोमा बेचिदिने भयो कि उनीहरूले गरिबहरूले त थोरै पैसामा पनि बेचिदिने भए आफ्नो अर्गानहरूलाई. यहाँसम्म त हामीले अस्ति पढाएको थियौँ. Already, the black market may account for 5% to 10% of transplant worldwide. विश्वभरि नै 5 to 10%. The transplant process is going on. If organ sales are voluntary, it's hard to fault either the buyer or the seller. If organ sales are voluntary, human organ sales are voluntary, हैन हामीले यसलाई सेल गर्न सजिलो गर्छौं भने it's hard to fault either the buyer or the seller. किन्ने र बेच्ने दुवैको it's hard to fault over there. But as long as the market remains underground, the donors may not receive adequate post-operative care after their operation, after their transplant of the organ, how they will get care. थोरै पैसामा यसरी बेच्ने, इलिगल बेच्ने, हैन, गैर कानुनी बेच्ने, अनएलिजिबल वर्कहरू गर्नेलाई ल ह्युमन अर्गन ट्रान्सप्लान्ट त गर्यो, किडनी ट्रान्सप्लान्ट गर्यो, गरिसके पछाडिको उसलाई पोस्ट अपरेटिभ केयर कसले गर्ने त, कसरी गर्ने त? देयर विल नट बी प्रोपर केयर. नो, देयर विल नट बी मेडिकल केयर ओभर देयर. Because of that, their health condition will be degraded. यसले गर्दा नै उनीहरूको स्वास्थ्य अवस्था चाहिँ घट्दै जान्छ. यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले विशेष ध्यान दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ. सो एउटालाई जोगाउँदा अर्को पनि यो उसको हेल्थ कन्डिसन डिग्रेड हुने भयो. And that puts a black mark on all proposals to legalize financial compensation. कति पैसामा आफ्नो अर्गान बेच्ने त, यो चाहिँ पहिला फाइनलाइज हुनु पर्यो, एउटै रेट हुनु पर्यो भनेर भन्छ. Only one country, हेर्नुहोस् है, now you need to memorize this. Only one country, विश्वमा हेर्ने हो भने इरान, has eliminated the shortage of transplant organs. ह्युमन अर्गन ट्रान्सप्लान्ट गर्नलाई इरानले चाहिँ यो सर्टेज घटाउन सजिलो भएको छ. इट इज सक्सेस. And only Iran has a working and legal payment system for organ donation. Working and legal payment system, काम गर्ने र वैधानिक पेमेन्ट सिस्टम चाहिँ working and legal payment system for organ donation. In this system, organs are not bought. के गरिन्छ हेर्नुस् त, underline it. Underline this. In Iran, what is done over there? Organs are not bought and sold at the bazaar. किन बेच गरिदैन अर्गानलाई. Patients who cannot be assigned a kidney from a deceased donor and who cannot find a related living donor may apply to the non-profit voluntary dialysis and transplant patient association data. हेर्नुस् है, इरानले कस्तो गर्यो भने patients who cannot be assigned a kidney from a deceased donor, जोसँग उनीहरूले किडनी लिँदैनन्, and who cannot find a related living donor, they may apply to the non-profit, भनेको भोलुन्टियर अर्गनाइजेसन्सहरू छ नि हो, तिनीहरूलाई लगेर भोलुन्टेरियन डायलासिस एन्ड ट्रान्सप्लान्ट पेसेन्ट एसोसिएसन डाटा त्यहाँ लगेर आफ्नो अर्गान डोनेट गर्ने. पैसै नपाउने भयो नि त उसले. डाटा आइडेन्टिफाइज पोटेन्सियल डोनर्स फ्रम अ पुल अफ एप्लिकेन्ट्स. कस्तो खालको डोनर हो त, त्यहाँबाट उसले आइडेन्टिफाई गर्छ यो अर्गनाइजेसनले. Those donors are medically evaluated by transplant physicians who have no connection to data in just the same way as are uncompensated donors. The government pays donors $1,200. जसले आफ्नो अर्गान डोनेट गर्छ उसलाई $1,200 चाहिँ गभर्मेन्टले डोनेट गर्ने काम गर्छ. And provides 1 year of limited health insurance. 1 वर्षको स्वास्थ्य बिमा गरिदिन्छ. हेर्नुस् त, 1 year, underline this, okay? You need to write when it comes in exam. जसले डोनेट गर्छ उसको 1 वर्ष भरि चाहिँ उसको स्वास्थ्यलाई जे समस्या आइपरे पनि फ्री अफ कस्टमा चाहिँ ट्रिटमेन्ट हुने गरिदिन्छ. In addition, working through data, जो यो अर्गनाइजेसन अन्तर्गत आफ्नो अर्गानलाई डोनेट गर्छ. In addition, working through data, kidney recipient pay donors between $2,300 and $4,500. Charitable organizations provide remuneration of donors for recipients who cannot afford to pay. जसले तिर्न सक्दैन, who cannot afford to pay, thus demonstrating that Iran has something to teach the world about charity as well as about market. सेवा भनेको के हो, हामीले अरूलाई गर्ने ह्युमन एक्टिभिटिज र ह्युमेनिटी भनेको के हो भन्ने कुरा इरानले सिकायो. And next thing is Iran has given good example of managing market. How can we manage market? हामीले यसरी ह्युमन अर्गान ट्रान्सप्लान्टमा मार्केट कसरी म्यानेज गर्न सक्छौँ त, बजारलाई व्यवस्थापन कसरी गर्ने गराउने, यस्तो इलिगल एक्टिभिटिजहरू हुन नदिनको लागि कसरी रोक्ने, हाउ क्यान वी कन्ट्रोल दिस थिङ्स, यी कुराहरूलाई हामीले कन्ट्रोल गरेर कसरी लैजान सकिन्छ त. दिस थिङ्स आर टट टु अस बाई इरान इटसेल्फ. कसले सिकायो हामीलाई? इरानले सिकायो. इफ द countries, other countries in the world will follow the same, probably and possibly the solution of this problem will be solved very soon in the world. But why others, they are not following it? Why they are not able to use it as a rule in their country too? कारण के त? किन कन्ट्रीहरू पछाडि परिरहेछ त? So using this, even Iran can do this, then why not those well developed countries? So the Iranian system and the black market demonstrate one important fact. Underline it. The organ shortage can be solved by paying living donors. जुन अर्गान सर्टेज छ, बिरामीले अर्को अर्गान नपाएर मर्ने अथवा त्यहाँ ब्ल्याक मार्केटिङ हुने अथवा उनीहरूले सोचे जस्तो इन्भाइरोमेन्ट नहुने, यसलाई कसरी सल्भ गर्न सकिन्छ त? हाउ क्यान वी सल्भ दिस सर्टेज? यो सर्टेजलाई कसरी सल्भ गर्न सकिन्छ त भन्दाखेरि द्याट इज सल्भ बाई पेइङ लिभिङ डोनर्स. जो चाहिँ बाँचिरहेका, जसले डोनेट गर्ने डोनर्सहरू छ, उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ पे गर्ने, उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ तिर्ने, उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ पैसा दिने. The Iranian system began in 1988 and eliminated the shortage of kidney by 1999. हेर्नुस् त, झन्डै 10-11 वर्षमै यसले यो सर्टेजको समस्या पुरै समाधान गरिदियो. 1988 मै उनीहरूले यो रुल सुरु गरे. Writing in the Journal of Economic Perspective in 2007, 2007 the Journal of Economic Perspective 2007, Nobel laureate economics Gary Becker and Julio Elish eliminated that a payment of $15,000 for living donors. Payment of $15,000 for living donors would alleviate the shortage of kidney in the US. Payment could be made by the federal government to avoid any hint of inequality in kidney allocation. No? Kidney allocation कसरी? US ले के गर्यो? US मा कसरी यो समस्यालाई समाधान गर्ने? Just they are trying. It is not solved. त्यहाँ त समाधान भएकै छैन. Just they are trying. कसरी त भने living donors would alleviate the shortage of kidney in US. कसरी त? जुदो डोनर्सहरू जो चाहिँ डोनेट गर्न, अर्गान डोनेट गर्न सक्ने छन्, उनीहरूले कसरी यसलाई समाधान गर्छन् भने पेमेन्ट कुड बी मेड बाई द फेडरल गभर्नमेन्ट. संघीय सरकारले पेमेन्ट गरिदिने to avoid any hint of inequality in kidney allocation. Kidney allocation मा inequality भयो, गरिब दुखी तिनीहरूलाई किडनी लिनु पर्यो, त्यस्तो पेमेन्ट चाहिँ फेडरल गभर्नमेन्टले गरिदिने. Moreover, this proposal would save the government money since even with a significant payment, transplant is cheaper than the dialysis that is now paid for by Medicare's end-stage renal disease program. This transplant is very suitable for the government and it is cheaper too. Kina? Because the dialysis process should be done by the government by paying them. आफ्नो खर्च लगाएर बिरामीको डायलिसिस गरिदिनु सट्टा उनलाई किडनी ट्रान्सप्लान्टै गरिदिनु चाहिँ गभर्नमेन्टलाई फाइदा हुने भयो. आफैले पैसा तिरिदियो. इज इन युएस. यो चाहिँ युएस को सिस्टम छ. In March 2009, Singapore legalized a government plan for paying organ donors. March 2009 मा सिंगापुरले के गर्यो भने legalized a government plan, सरकारी प्लान योजना जुन छ त्यसलाई वैधानिक बनाइदियो for paying organ donors. Although जसले डोनेट गर्छ उसलाई पैसा दिने तिर्दिने. Although it's not clear yet when this will be implemented. यो जब लागू हुन्छ अझैसम्म क्लियर त छैन. The amounts being discussed for payment, around $50,000, suggest the possibility of a significant donor incentive. Those donors, they will get incentive too. So they are being in easy life in Singapore when it has legalized a government plan for paying organ donors. जसले डोनेट गर्छ उसलाई पैसा दिने भने पछाडि त they would be interested. They thought it and it is done. How much they will get? The amounts being discussed for payment around $50,000. आफ्नो एउटा अर्गन डोनेट गरे बापत $50,000 चाहिँ उसलाई दिनुपर्छ भन्ने सजेसन भयो. त्यता त हेल्थ इन्स्योरेन्स हुन्छ सबै गभर्नमेन्टले पे गर्ने भयो नि त. The possibility of a significant donor incentives. So far, the US had lagged other countries in addressing the shortage. महँगो पैसा तिर्यो त्यो भएको हुनाले मान्छे इन्ट्रेस्टेड भए र त्यहाँ पनि किडनी सर्टेज हुँदैन. $50,000 is not a joke, as it is a good way to pursue the normal people to donate their organs. But last year, Sen Lane Specter circulated a draft bill that would allow US government entities to test compensation program for organ donation. This program would only offer non-cash compensation such as funeral expenses for deceased donors. मरिसके पछाडि उनीहरूको काज क्रिया गर्ने खर्च पनि गभर्नमेन्टले दिने. And health and life insurance or tax credit for living donors. र बाँच्नेहरूको लागि स्वास्थ्य बिमा, ट्याक्स क्रेडिट उनीहरूले कर तिर्नु नपर्ने हैन, for those living donors. These are way to pursue them. And it also has inspired the normal person to donate their organ. Normal यो फाइदा हुन्छ, अर्को बिरामी बाँच्न पाउँछ, यसै तरिकाले उनीहरू पोजिटिभ सोच्ने भए. Old one. We will soon harvest more kidney from living donors than from deceased donors. In one sense, this is a great success. विश्वभरिमा हेर्ने हो भने यही तरिकाले सबै देशमा विकास हुने हो. डोनेटिङ प्रोग्राम भने बिरामी भएर बस्नु पर्दैन, रोगी भएर बस्नु पर्दैन. Normal people easily understands the problem of those and it will be solved. The body can function perfectly well. Kidney donation is a low risk. The proper care को सहित एकदम केयर गरेर किडनी डोनेसन गर्ने हो भने यो सजिलो प्रक्रिया हो. One kidney. In other sense, it's an ugly failure. Why must we harvest kidney from the living when kidneys that could save lives are routinely being buried and burned? एउटाको जीवन राम्रोसँग चलिरहेछ, अर्को बिरामी रोगीलाई मर्न देउन, बाँच्ने चाहिँ राम्रैसँग बाँच्छ भन्ने किन सोच्दैन भनेर सोच्न पनि सकियो. This is the next aspect. एउटा बिरामी छ भने अर्कोलाई नि किडनी झिक्ने, त्यसलाई फेरि अपरेटेड गर्ने, पोस्ट अपरेट टेस्ट गर्ने, चेक गर्ने, उ पनि त बिरामी भयो नि त. नर्मल टु. So a payment of funeral बापत क्रिया खर्च डिस्काउन्ट अब ट्याक्स छुट गरिदिने हैन, उसको इन्स्योरेन्स छुट गरिदिने, उसको लिभिङ लाइफलाई अझ सजिलो बनाइ बनाइदिने भन्ने जति पनि पर्सुएसिभ facilities are given to them. फकाउने खालका सुविधाहरू दिँदाखेरि may a simple and innocent and unknown people would be the victim of great accident in their life, because they will think only about the facilities they will get and the money they will get over there. So, two countries, Singapore and Israel. Singapore and Israel. सिङ्गापुरले $50,000 दिने भयो, यो कसैले सोच्दै नसोचेको पैसा. एन्ड इजरायल जुनले कम्प्लिटली ब्यान गर्यो, have pioneered non-monetary incentive system for potential organs donors. In Singapore, anyone may opt out of its presumed consent system. However, those who opt out are assigned a lower priority on the transplant waiting list should they one day need an organ. Wait गराएर राख्ने, जहिले चाहिन्छ त्यहीले माग्ने. A system I have called no give no take. नलिने नदिने. जसलाई रोग लाग्छ उ मर्ने, जो स्वस्थ छ उ सधैँ स्वस्थै बाँच्ने हैन. It is their one fate. त्यहाँ हुँदा ब्ल्याक मार्केटिङ हुन पाएन, इलिगल मार्केटिङ हुन पाएन. Many people find the idea of paying for organs repugnant, but they do accept the ethical foundation of no give no take, that those who are willing to give should be the first to receive. जसलाई चाहिँ डोनेट गर्ने मन छ उ पहिलो हुन्छ लिने. In addition to satisfying ethical constraint, no give no take increases the incentive to sign one's organ donor card, thereby reducing the shortage. The US Life Sharers, or a non-profit network of potential organ donors, is working to implement a similar system. No give no take. US मा पनि बरु no give no take नै ठिक रहेछ भनेर उनीहरू यो चाहिँ युटिलाइज गर्ने कि भन्नेतिर सोचिरहेछन्, but it is not finalized. In Israel, a more flexible version of no give no take would be phased into place beginners this year. In the Israeli system, people who sign their organ donor card are giving points, pushing them up the transplant list should they one day need a transplant. Points will also be given to transplant candidates whose first degree relative have signed their organ donor cards, or whose first degree relative were organ donors. In the case of kidney, for example, 2 points will be given if the candidate had 3 or more years previous to being listed signed their organ card. अगाडि 2-3 वर्ष अगाडि नै आफ्नो नाम लेखाएर राखेको रहेछ भने उलाई चाहिँ बढी मार्क्स दिने हैन, उलाई दिनुपर्ने फ्यासिलिटी चाहिँ अझ धेरै दिने, यस्ता सुविधा नि राखौं. 1 point will be given if a first degree relative has signed, and 3.5 point of a first degree relative has previously donated an organ. पहिलो पटकलाई 1 point, अरुलाई 3.5 point भनेको facilities in term of facility. The old wide shortage of organ is going to get worse. But मैले क्लियर गर्न सकेन मैले यो विश्वव्यापी रूपमा रहेको हाम्रो जुन डोनेसन सिस्टम छ, it will be more problematic than it is now. अझ बढ्दो छ हैन. इलिगल ह्युमन अर्गान ट्रान्सप्लान्टिङ एन्ड मार्केटिङ इज इन्क्रिजिङ, but we do have options. यसलाई रोक्ने हामीसँग अप्सन छ. Presumed consent, financial compensation for living and deceased donors, and point systems would all increase the supply of transplant organ. Too many people have died already, but the pressure is mounting for innovation that will save lives. यति मान्छे मरिसके तर पनि अझै पनि मान्छेको जीवन जोगाउन सकिन्छ, बाँच्न सकिन्छ. We can do something better भनेर still we can think and we can change this one. So we need to be able for creating, for stopping and for using these type of kidney transplant and organ human organ transplantations. So class, it is our paragraph wise description and meaning of those in detailed description tomorrow. यो लेसन सुन्दा एकदमै कम्प्लेक्स जस्तो लाग्छ हैन, तर तपाईहरुलाई यति डिटेलमा लेख्नु पर्ने चाहिँ आउँदैन। तपाईहरुले सम्झिन्छ के पर्यो भने इरानले के गर्यो, सिंगापुरले के गर्यो हैन, यो प्रब्लम, यो समस्या रोक्नको लागि what Iran is doing, what Singapore is doing, and how they are being success in these matters, and what other countries are failed. अरु कन्ट्रीहरु के कुरामा फेल भए त, अरु कन्ट्रीले चाहिँ के गर्न सकिरहेको छैन, what if they have done like them would be success, and what are the solutions they can get. अब ह्युमन बिङ्स लाई चाहिँ कस्तो रूपमा लियो, लाइक द मिट इन द मार्केट, जनावरहरुको एनिमल्सहरुको मिट बजारमा किनबेच गरे जस्तै ह्युमन लाइफलाई यसो किनबेच नगरौं, यसलाई चाहिँ सुव्यवस्थित बनाऊ। ह्युमन बिङ्स आर नट like those animals which are bought and sold in the market. Somehow it is trying to convince and say these things through the lesson, and we will go in detail. Long question ma चाहिँ यो lesson आउँदैन, it will come in short question. Okay, तर त्यसो भन्दा इग्नोर त गर्न पाइएन. It's easy to interpret, don't worry. Okay class, any problem? Shruti, I think you are to say something.
No, ma'am.
So very few of you are here. Let's try then.